Alrighty, welcome back to the Net to Net podcast with your host Sam Kelty and Caleb Kirsch. We are missing Casey today, which he'll be back for the next episode. He just couldn't make it today, but today is a lovely day to do another episode. We're in the international break, so not a whole lot to talk about, but we still have some soccer news off field. So we're going to get started with that. So the first thing we're going to talk about that's kind of pretty much big news, dominating headlines, is Paul Pogba over at Juventus has been suspended indefinitely due to the anti-doping rules within Italy. And he could be, if proven, be guilty, be suspended up to a max of 4 years for testing positive for testosterone. So he has been suspended for both internationally and club level. There is a provision that immediately affected. Pending his trial and testing of a backup B sample, he is at risk to, like I said, up to 4 years. So, Kirsch, kind of your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly a sad day for football. As much as people want to talk about how great of a player and everything that Paul Pogba's done in his time playing, it's sad to see him be suspended for something so silly. The guy's got quality. He has what it takes to be at the top level, and if you're willing to risk your entire career essentially, because he is getting a little bit older. I think he's
30.
30. I don't know how. Yeah, 30 years old. So, I mean, how many more years at the top does he really have if he's willing to do this type of thing? But there's been shouts that he tried, things like witchcraft and stuff like that. But this goes to something that will break rules, and they will not allow him to play because of. And I just don't really get the point of it. He's got enough skill, enough ability to pass, to move around the field, like one of the best midfielders. Maybe not as recently because of his injury history, but in the past, with Juventus, he was one of the best midfielders we've seen break through. And it really is a shame to see, because in other sports, we might see this more often, but in soccer, it's kind of big news, especially with the player, the profile of Paul Pogba. And he's got things like documentaries where he's talking about his life, and it's really sad to see the effects on this. So,
yeah, and then even with this, this has not been the best year last 12 months for Paul Pogba. We're talking about he's only made 6 appearances in Serie A last year due to his injury since returning to the club where he left in 2016 to United. Also, there's still that ongoing investigation with the extortion, ongoing including with his brother Mateus, which still hasn't been wrapped up. I believe that happened last year, which is still an ongoing investigation. On top of that, missing out on the World Cup last year, going to the World Cup and playing in the World Cup finals, and then playing for Serie A. It's just a big blow to him. He, like you said, he's quality player, quality midfielder. He was arguably one of the best French midfielders at the time, from like a big span from before he went to United for a transfer record then of 105 million euros. So with Pogba's indication with this, it's kind of sad to see because he had such great quality, such great talent. Going off that, Juve, this is just another thing that Juve has to deal with in the likes of what happened last year with the point deductions, and then just where they're going to play in Europe, where they're going to play in Europa League, Champions League, whatever. That it just hasn't been the greatest for Juventus in general and for Pogba. So hopefully something changes. I know Pogba said he's considering retiring from football over the blackmail plot. That was reported by BBC about 5 hours ago. He considered retiring because in July of 2022, that's when he was targeted for about a black man for about 13 million euros, which that's the whole issue about that. So Pogba not doing great, and then like we said, Juve loses a quality midfielder who's starting to come back from injury, which hopefully can get resolved, and hopefully this all is not true because we would love to see Pogba out there. I think he deserves try to restart his career at Juve, where we've seen him flourish. But yeah, and then our next big topic is in the news. We've kind of touched on this throughout last couple podcasts with in regards to the world with the Spanish National Federation with their president Rebels, Rudy Rebels, whole suspension for 90 days, and now we're coming to light that he has now resigned from Spanish soccer from the federation. So now we can put that chapter behind us. There will still be an investigation over it. He just will not be proceeded in relations to the Spanish Federation, cutting all ties with him. I think that it was inevitable for him to do um, because everybody wanted him out. There was so much boycotting with from both sides, the men and the women's side. And we won't get into the huge details about it just because there's so much behind the scenes with politically wise, and we don't want to go into all that. But Caleb, just kind of your general thoughts about the situation. You're happy with it, and your thoughts about it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our listeners definitely know about the story. I mean, it's been covered on like sort of mainstream, everyday going news channels as a huge story because it's bigger than the sport. So having a wider audience of the story is good to spread awareness about things like this that happen in women's sports, and this obviously isn't the only case that's ever happened. I mean, so I personally am glad that he is out, and as well as the coach, just based on their record. The coach he was boycotted by several Spanish players, and it really goes to show how good the Spanish team was, with a lot of them being La Liga players, and really the lengths that some people were willing to go to defend non-consensual, you know, activity live on TV in front of thousands and thousands of people in the middle of the stadium. Like I understand him saying like, "Oh, it's a passionate moment," but I mean, you have to have some awareness on the situation. You can't just go out there. And I don't know what he put in his. He might have put something in his body. I don't know. I don't know what he put in his body before that. It could have been some sort of, thing that could change your state of mind at that moment. But it's really a situation that people were really going to the depths to keep him in power. And I don't know the validity of this story, but they were saying that his mom was on a hunger strike because of this, and and I get the whole you're his mom, you want to defend him, but the video's playing out there to see, and it's just a situation that you know if you win the World Cup and uh, you play against one of the best teams in the world and you manage to win, and then this is the main story behind it. People don't even talk about the fact that Spain won the World Cup and they were brilliant in the final against a really good England team who the year prior walked through everybody in Europe to win the Euros, destroying teams like left and right. And the fact that they're able to overcome all this without some of their really good players, with all this baggage of their coach, they said that he used unethical uh, training, and he was really harsh towards them. And with all that, and then some, I mean, it's really astonishing to see because had that been, say, a men's team, nowhere near the amount of, they would not allow any of this stuff to even come close to happening, So it's really a situation that people need to hear about. People need to understand that this is really happening in 2023. And how does Spain move forward from here? I mean, they got rid of their coach, which I'm sure a lot of people would be willing to sign up for that job because you already had a good squad who was in Australia, um, and then you have the possibility of regaining all the players that boycotted their coach. You know, they could go for a double if it's there for them, and then the Euros coming up too for them. I just want to reiterate, like, this is one of the biggest stories in soccer, and I think also that we've seen recently in general because it's such a strange dichotomy of your team wins the World Cup, the greatest competition in the history of the world, and this just gets overshadowed completely. Completely. Do you think all these news companies are talking about the fact they won the World Cup or this kiss? It's definitely the kiss, way more. So I feel bad for the players that having to go through all this, and people might not even remember it in the same light because remember when Spain, the men's team, won the World Cup? That was lauded as one of the best teams, with a great final against a great Dutch team. Like, people remember that, whereas this, it's going to be a different situation, I think.
Yeah, and then yeah, we touched on it when it first got released. I know we said right now we should be looking at the women winning the World Cup, focusing on that, and now they take it to we can't even focus on their win. We can't even take it all in. We're so focused on what happened right after the game, and
Directly after. Yeah.
yeah, directly after, which is unexcusable and unacceptable. But it's people do stupid things at the wrong time, and that was one of the most stupidest things I've seen. Like,
Yeah.
and yeah, we've seen people in soccer, we've seen people like kiss each other, but it's usually on the cheek or on the forehead, and it's usually during like a celebration. But that one was just between them is just awkward at
Yeah,
that point.
it's extremely, and especially with the power dynamic, whereas this guy
Mm-hmm.
runs everything, and this is supposed to be the person who's
Mm-hmm.
organizing the team on the field. The captain, one of the leaders, one of the best players we saw at the World Cup, and they're just getting
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
used for someone else's excitement. Like, I get
Mm-hmm.
hugs, I get high fives and that type of thing, but it just
Mm-hmm.
goes to another level.
Yeah, and I feel like we see players kiss each other. We see coaches and players kiss each other. That's a they do that. That's a part of the game. We've seen it. If it's on cheek or if it's on the forehead, something like that, because
Mhm.
it's like a European thing. Because like if in like certain European countries, when people say hello, they do the two kisses on the cheeks, which is normal. But on the lips is a little bit different, and it's borderlining the whole consensual, non-consensual thing. But in hindsight, I'm glad that it's all resolved now, and now we can move. Now that the federation can move on, they can bring in a new coach. They can bring in a new president. Maybe, maybe the Spanish Federation does um, what the U.S. does and has the president run both the men and women's. Maybe because I know the men have a different one, but
Mhm.
it's something that can be looked into. But I'm glad it's all over, and now
Yeah,
we can focus on. Now they can set their focus to the Euros because that's
yeah.
pretty much what they're going to want to do. They want to establish that dominance.
Well,
But
and
yeah,
and and as you being a person who enjoys Spanish football a lot, I enjoy it too. But I would say you are a fan of Spain because just the roots of Real Madrid and who you support. So I mean, this has
mm-hmm.
got to be something that you've been focusing on, and it needs talked about. And I'm glad we're talking about it on this. We touched on it like you said before. I don't believe I was on that day, so I wanted to also get my
Mm-hmm.
2 cents in.
Yeah, I
Um,
believe you. We talked about it once when all three of us were on it, but that was like when I think it first came out, and then the
yeah,
second time when we got more news, I believe you weren't on it. But yeah,
yeah.
I'm glad we talked about it because I did mention that I know Caleb definitely would want to talk about this, and now that we know the whole story, we
Mhm,
can put it to bed and we can say this is a. I would say this is a success for Spanish football to make that change because
mhm.
that's what's needed. And yeah, like you said, I'm huge into Spanish football. I support Real Madrid. I support La Liga, and then international other than the U.S. Usually, I support Spain. I've always liked Spain for a long time as my second national team to support. So glad that they've done that. And I know that Hermosa just went back to her club and she got Guard of Honor returning home to her club that she plays in Mexico, which is great. So I'm glad she's been able to kind of focus back on club because they're trying to win a title.
Yeah.
So
And there's one
yeah.
more thing I want to say about this.
Oh yeah.
I think for the future, hopefully that there are things put in place so things like this in the future cannot happen, because we often see abuse coming from onto women and people that are above, thought to be above them or in positions of power, that they can
Mm-hmm.
use their privilege or power to use that on someone who is, I mean, even Hermosa, I mean, like, she's amazing at the game. Like, even people that might be at the top of their segment of wherever they're working at. I mean, it doesn't have to be just football in general, but I just hope that in the future we don't see anything like this happen, and there needs to be some sort of stronger parameters, because this did drag on for a while. The fact that people were letting this drag on just made it seem like, are they really serious about ending this whole thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. They definitely do, and they definitely need to do something about it because and set those numbers. And I think other sports should take notice of it because we're seeing so much, and not just in soccer. Like and I'll probably cover this on our football podcast, like with the whole thing with Michigan State's coach
Oh yeah,
Mel
I
Tucker.
saw that.
Yeah, so there's
'Cause
like it's not just soccer.
Can you explain that, like, in very short detail, really quick, to get the
Yeah,
comparison?
yeah. So Mel Tucker, the coach of Michigan State, has been suspended indefinitely and could be losing his job over a sexual harassment claim that was made to one of his that was a staff member that reported it. It
Well,
just
wasn't it like
go,
a person that the guy hired? He wasn't even a part of the Michigan State football staff.
yeah. So the whole thing with it was it was kind of a weird situation, and it's like there's from both sides of the story. Which he said that she initiated it, he initiated it. So there, that's what is being looked at. But yeah, in hindsight, yeah, it
Because
is.
what I saw from it is she was like a someone who had experience with trauma of, rape and assault and that
Mm-hmm.
type of thing. And this guy went out to go help and, encourage her to come join in and be like a part of the staff or talk or something of that nature and be a part of it. And then he exposed himself and all this stuff to her when he knew that she had this past that
Mm-hmm.
she even openly spoke about and was getting over, because when you talk about things like that, it kind of frees you
Yeah.
up in a way.
So yeah, so Tucker brought her in to campus in 2021 to be like a support mission for helping prevent sexual misconduct and prevention in the workplace or in with the team to help work with it. And they had mutual friends, so they've known each other. They also had an intimate relationship um, for months,
That I did not know.
and it was consensual between both of them. So that's why it's like in that weird mucky water. Um, that's
But is
why
it
um,
now?
that's why we're in
They're
that weird
not. They
limbo
weren't
of was
together
it
for.
consecutive? Yeah,
But they
like
weren't. They weren't at one point though.
yeah, they weren't at one point, but yeah, and we'll talk. I'll probably talk about this a little bit more in depth.
Yeah. So that
Yeah,
was kind of the similarity of two situations going on at the same time, or similar
yeah.
time frame. But yeah,
Mhm.
we. So we
And
got
there's two
that.
sides of the story, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's the in
It's
just kind of
murky.
comparison. Yeah, in comparison to the soccer one, it happens in it's happening in every sport at the right now. We've seen it in basketball, we've seen it in football, we've seen it in soccer, we've seen it in baseball. It's in any
Well,
sport.
and professional. I mean,
Yeah.
professional life. People at work. It happens too. So
Oh yeah.
it's a really hard situation, and
Hmm.
it needs to be talked about and addressed even more than what it is now. And
Oh yeah.
I'm glad we are
And
talking
that
about it.
yeah, totally. now kind of switching gears from those stories. Now we're going to talk about something big that happened as well. German national team played a qualifier against Japan. I believe it was. Is it a qualifier or is it a friendly?
I think it was a friendly. I don't think they play against
Yeah, because
Japan
I
for
was gonna.
qualifying.
Yeah, because they're in different. They're a part of different. What's it called? Confederations.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it was a friendly on September 6th. Japan smoked them 4-1, which in light, this Germany team is supposed to be still good, still able to compete, and then they lose 4-1 to Japan, and Hansi Flick, who is the coach of Germany, gets sacked that game after that game, which is a big surprise because a lot of the players thought he would still be there, and this is when all and this is like a day after that All or Nothing series dropped on the German national team. That series that they do, there's a football series and there's soccer series. I know the last year's was, I believe, Tottenham. This year it was the German national team, which right now the state of Germany for the national team is kind of in a limbo because they have ever since they won the World Cup, they have not looked like the same Germany team. And I think there's multiple factors with this. If it's the group of players, the cohesion, is it the coach? Because in my opinion, I think Hansi Flick's a great coach, and what he did at Bayern Munich before he came was unbelievable, winning the sextuplet. We've only seen one other team do that, and that was Barcelona with Pep Guardiola. But um, I think I still think Hansi is a great coach. I think maybe it's the players that he has, and I would love to hear your take on this, Kirsch, about if it is the players, if it's like the group meshing. Is it because this is still a good group of players?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it is hard because they won the World Cup, and then a couple years later, the Confederations Cup happened, and they were playing roughly their B or C team, and they kind of walked the floor with everyone, which is all the best countries from each continent, and they kind of just wiped the floor with pretty much everyone with the B team. Which I mean, for them, a B team for might be an A team for other countries, but for Germany, I mean, we all saw them as like they're gonna keep going and going and going, and it really hasn't been. And I think the aging of someone like Thomas Muller and Tony Kroos doesn't help. Neuer right now has been in and out of playing, and I just think a little bit they do lack a little bit of that leadership. I don't know. I don't see Hansi Flick as kind of someone who is a stern leader of a coach. Um, Kind of how I saw uh, Jurgen Low, but yeah, to be fair, he did do very well at Bayern Munich with a really, really good crop of players at the right time against. I mean, playing against really good teams, and they're. I mean, if you're gonna remember the Barcelona Bayern game where they won 8-2 in the final, but I just don't think Flick kind of has that vibe about him where he can really get the best out of certain players. If you have a workhorse mentality, then yeah, but I don't think Germany kind of is that anymore. Kind of that stereotypical, big, strong, fast type of player. And I think they're kind of changing a bit. And I know Schweinsteiger's talked about this a bit, where Germany tries to play like the rest of the world. That is something that he said that I found really interesting because his argument is once Pep Guardiola came to Bayern Munich, Germany kind of changed the way that their style was, and I didn't really see it as much when he said it, but it is making a little bit of sense, and I mean, in terms of Pep Guardiola, probably the best football you could play in history that we've seen. So um, I do think they need some restructuring. They need to get some young legs in, and people like Rudiger in the last game. I mean, I didn't get a chance to watch it, sadly, but Rudiger, I saw a clip where he was kind of nonchalant. Just he took like a second or two to even start running back after one of his teammates gave away the ball. And that's something that for Germany, especially, you can't have. They are expecting results. We have a friend from Germany, both of us, and he expects big things out of the German national team. So it's not like it's some middle of the road type of nation to be messing around with. This team has gone deep in World Cups. They've won many World Cups. So yeah, it's something that we have to look out for in the future. I think the Euros will be one of the determining factors on whether Germany can really keep pushing forward or will be stagnant and maybe regressing.
Yeah, and I think you totally mentioned that. I think this group of the cohesion's not there, and I think for my take, it's like you lack you're lacking a lot of that leadership that they had in the past. Like you had Amir Zaklosa, you had Tony Kroos, you had Bastian Schweinsteiger, Philip Lahm, Pierre Mertesacker. Those guys aren't there anymore. And I think from the last World Cup, that crop of players, and then now I think there's a significant drop off. You don't have that guy creating anymore like Ozil would create stuff out of nothing, create magic. Kroos is no longer there. You have no one bossing the midfield with him. Yet Thomas Muller is getting older. Your defense isn't as strong as it has been in the past. You had. I don't think they've had good outside backs ever since Lahm left. Their center backs haven't looked good. Like no more Hummels, no more Boateng, no more Mertesacker. They haven't been there for a while, and I think the lack of quality between that group of players and this group of players is a lot different. Like you had a Royce, you had, like I said, Ozil, you had Schürrle, you had Podolski. You don't really have that, and you really don't have an out and out striker. On that team right now. They didn't call up Nicholas Fluger. They didn't call up Timo Werner. So they didn't call up Royce, who technically, or Gota, who can play that center forward role. No Goretzka, no Musala. So you're lacking a lot of quality in this call ups. You have Ilgay Gundogan, who's good, still good, but he is getting older. Kimmich, I don't think Kimmich expected to really be playing right back for the Germany. I think he's better in the midfield now. So I just think Germany needs a new coach, and there are candidates out there. I know right now Rud Voller, Hansi Wolf, and Sandra Wagner are all taking over as the caretakers. So they have three coaches at the moment. Rud Voller is their main caretaker. Problem is the man hasn't coached since 2005. 2002 really at the most, because in 2005 he took over as sporting director, and he was the director of he's the director of Germany right now. You have, like I mentioned, Sandro Wagner, who is a former German player. I believe, I don't think he really ever played for the national team. I don't believe, or he made 8 caps, but he's never had a managerial coaching. He was a assistant coach, but not really. He really didn't do much in the third division of Bundesliga. And then Hansi Wolf, who I believe is another former player. Another former player who retired in 2009. He's coached a little bit, but he really hasn't coached an actual team since 2020. So you're going with 3 guys that really haven't coached that much to take over for the German national team while you find a coach. And there are multiple coaches that are available. It's just, is it more likely? The likes of Jurgen Klinsmann has been mentioned in names.
I don't think that's going to happen, though.
And I don't think he would come back. I know people didn't like Jurgen as a coach, his style. There is the likes of there's like the wideouts of like trying to get Jurgen Klopp, who's probably not going to come. You have the likes of Zidane, who is out there, but he doesn't speak German, and I don't think he would want to coach the German national team. So you're kind of like in a limbo of coaches that are out there, but not really interested in it.
So there is one guy that it's his face and his name is in my mind, but I can't. There's no way I'm going to try and pronounce it on this podcast. It's like Carl something. He used to coach
Oh,
Bayern Munich.
Carl Heinz and
Is he
Reams.
done coaching? Because that could be something that maybe they look into. Or Julian Nagelsmann, I could see them going for, but because
Yeah.
he's open right now. But apart from those two, I really don't. I mean, unless I could get maybe like Jose or Zidane or something, I don't really see them getting someone that high up on the list.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something that not necessarily needs to have a good coach, but I think this group of players just really need to wake up. I mean, players like Kai Havertz, Leroy Sané have not been nearly as good as they could be, and Leroy Sané is one that I really want to mention because everyone saw him as being one of the best at Man City. He could really turn it on and become one of the best players in the world, and he's kind of really not gotten much better since then. So, I mean, if there's listeners that disagree with me, I'd be open to hear that. But every time I watch the guy, it doesn't seem like he's as interested. And he had that bust up with Sadio Mane, which I thought he was in the wrong for. Um, and it's just his value and his ability has not really changed at all. Um, and like I said, Japan. To be fair, Japan did give him a good win or a good like they beat him pretty good. We saw in the World Cup as well them take down Germany. Um, and I would have loved to watch that game. I heard Endo was very good that game. But it really is something that happens with national teams. We saw it with England a couple of years ago. We've seen it with Belgium more recently, and now Germany as well. Teams just falling off a little bit, and um, I don't know if you were to give me like a pen to mark down how long until they're back as they were before. I don't really know that answer, but um, you know it's a very historical team. They have a lot of history, and getting the right mojo, the right fit for everyone, it will be key for them. I'd say going forward.
Yeah, so Karl Heinz Rumage is actually on the board of Bayern Munich currently. So I doubt he would come out. He's that weird coach that will only coach for a little bit and then he will just stop. I don't know if he just gets bored of it or what. And then, like you said, you mentioned who else did you mention? It was Carl, and then who was it?
Nagelsmann,
No,
Nagelsmann.
yeah, I think Nagelsmann might be the obvious choice. Just because he's German, he speaks German. He was in line for the German job before Hansi Flick, before he took over Bayern Munich. So I know they were really high on him. So there is
He's
that
young. He's a
chance.
young
Yeah.
coach too. I mean, he's not
hmm
even 40. I don't think.
I'm wondering if they've tried to reach out to Franz Beckenbauer. I know he's up there in age, so I don't know if he would ever accept a long term. I don't think he would do a long term. I think it'd be like a short term. But Ruud Voller, I think, is doing that at right now. So I think Nagelsmann is a good option. And but
They
with
did.
Hansi,
They did say something about Ralph Ragnick, but he's an Austrian coach. I
yeah.
mean, so
So I don't.
I don't
Yeah, I
think
don't think
he's
that
really
would
open
happen.
to it. Even though I think he's German, I believe so. But he
Ralph.
signed up for
Yeah.
Austria, so I think he said he was staying with
hmm
Austria. But
Yeah, and like I mentioned, Klinsmann. Klinsmann's South Korean coach
mhm,
now, so
yeah,
it would take a lot to get him to come. But I think since he's German, I think it might be
it
easier to
could
get
work.
him.
It could work.
But yeah, I think Germany needs to figure out what they did because they all came together in 2010 and put all their resources together and won a World Cup, and then after that, it just hasn't been the same. So hopefully they can come back because they are a really good team, one of the best teams in the world, national wise. So if they can find the right coach, and I think I just don't know because Nagelsmann didn't have a lot of success with Bayern Munich, and Bayern Munich has a lot of the German national team players. So I'm wondering if it would just be the same thing. He just can't get it going with them. And then for Hansi Flick, I hope he gets a coaching job again for a club team because I think he's a really good club coach. I think He's one of the best German coaches that it's coaching right now, and I think he could do good at like another club. Like I know there's so many coaches out there that they could get. It's just can they? It's one that's gonna mesh with the team and can also speak the language. Because I know like Laurent Blanc just got fired from Lyon, and now Geronimo Gattuso's taking over for him at Lyon, so that'll be interesting.
And Fernando
And
Santos.
Fernando Santos is probably almost out of Poland because
he is out.
they fired him.
But yeah, after he lost to Albania 2-0.
Oh, yeah, they could go get him, but I don't think he speaks German either. So
you never know. I have a question. So
mm-hmm.
it's kind of a sidetrack, but it still has to do with Flick.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were Todd Boehly and you had the choice between Pochettino and Hansi Flick, who would you pick?
That's a tough one. I like Hansi Flick a lot, but I would probably pick Poch just because he's had success in the Premier League and he's used to the Prem. He also can speak multiple languages, which I don't know if Hansi can speak multiple languages.
Okay.
And because Poch can speak English, I know he can speak Portuguese,
Spanish.
Spanish.
Speaks Spanish.
Yeah, he can speak multiple lanlanguages. So
maybe
I think,
French. He coached for PSG.
And French. Yeah, but he also played for PSG for like a lot for like half his career. So I would probably take Poch in the fact that he has the experience in the Prem and he has coached in the Prem before. He's had success, a couple of top 5 finishes. I would just take him over Hansi because Hansi's only really coached in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Now, do we want to go through the Columbus Crew real quick and then talk about that? Because we didn't get to play this week. I was so sad about that. The week before we played Montreal, that was a great game. For all you Crew fans listening, we beat Montreal 4-2. And Cucho had the hat trick. Unbelievable performance by him, with Rossi up there too. Those two were great, and I believe on the podcast prior to that game, I did show some nerves. I was a little nervous, maybe just based on our form against Houston Dynamo, where we kind of got outplayed. We got outplayed, but they turned up for Nancy, and I was really happy about it. And Montreal, I mean, they put up a good fight. They have some good players, but yeah, let's preview this next game, Sam. So over to you.
So yeah, they play Orlando City on Saturday, 4:30. I'm excited. I get to watch it. I have the weekend off. I don't have any sports working. I can watch them again. I'm very excited. I love this that we are making that push for the playoffs. We play Orlando City. In regards to the standings, after the last few games were played, we sit behind Orlando City with 2 points. So we win. We will jump them. We jump them to 3rd place. We're only 1 point behind Philadelphia, who's dropped in the standings. So I am very excited. I know everybody has their eyes on Inter Miami, which is going to be something big because if they make, I will give them credit if they do make the MLS playoffs. That's a huge story because they are sitting in with 28 points. They need to win pretty much all their games, and they had a close scare last game. They only beat the Sporting Kansas City 3-2, but like I said, the Crew are back. We have the best offense in the league. I feel like, yes, we lost Zelarayan, who creates and scores for us, but we replaced him with someone that I think is perfect to fill his shoes. Maybe not as creative enough, but he can find goals. He's had success in the MLS before with LAFC. I think Diego Rossi is a perfect fit for who we needed, and I think we're ready to make that playoff push. My only concern is, can our back line hold? Can our 3 in the back, our makeshift 3 in the back? We're starting to play Rudy Camacho. Adminson's a great center back, and so is Morier. Unless you want to play Morier as more of a right wing back, which he can get up the field, but we have Julian Gressel, who I like too. I think the sky's the limit for us, and I'm very excited for our team to kind of build on the success. I know we had a down year last year, and I think this is our time to be back with Wilfred Nancy, and we have a good thing going. So I'm really excited for the crew this year.
Yeah, I want to just touch on this game. The crew have been on good form apart from that Houston Dynamo game, and I really don't want us to fall behind because we could get that second place. It could be perfect for us, where we don't have to play Miami, but we still get that home field. We don't have to play teams like Orlando or Philadelphia that early. I would love to see that. Here's what I'm gonna say: this Orlando team, when they get the ball out of their midfield and go towards the other team's goal, they have some unreal attackers in that they play that 4-2-3-1. That three attacking mids slash whatever you want to say outside mids, they are pretty rapid. They have a guy on the left who just bombs down that side, and then on the right it's just cut in, shot, cross, all that stuff. So that's what I'm worried about. If we can manage to have players like Yaya Boa and Gressel be able to get up and down constantly and not be caught out of position, because they will play through us left and right if we are not on our A game in those channel areas. Herrera does a good job at 1v1 defending, but if he's on the backside against whoever, it could be a problem. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
And Admonson, he's had a good season, I think, so far. Just settling in still, coming in mid-season. Torres is going to be it could be an issue for us, and I think Aiden Morris and Nagby really are going to have to help out in those defensive areas, especially in the channels as well, because if they get going against us and we're on the ropes, and we can only get the ball to Cucho sometime if Rossi isn't really getting on the ball, we could have issues. But as long as we get the ball back, if Aiden Morris can get 5-10 defensive plays, big defensive plays, as well as Edmondson and Moreira, then I think we'll be fine. Schulte's going to have to make some saves, especially from Torres cutting in on the left. The guy is really good, and he doesn't get talked about enough, I don't think. And Orlando is dangerous. When we were up against like 4 and 5 with Orlando, and I would talk to you, Casey, other MLS fans, that's the team that I really do not want to play in the first round. I feel like they're a really dangerous team, and we need to control this game, because if we don't, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. I think with what like you said, Facundo Torres and Aguilo on the wings are too rapid. So Morier is going to have to be more disciplined to stay back, because we know, like watching him, we get annoyed watching Morier because he does like to get up.
I would say you and our friend Brett do. Me, on the other hand, I think it is tactical in many cases, because we have that ability to play out of the back from Zawadzki. But I don't think Zawadzki's going to start this game. I think it will be Camacho. And we have had troubles with, not really Zawadzki, but Camacho had a bad play last game where he kind of gave the ball out from the middle of the fence, and then from the beginning of the season quit and giving the ball away left and right.
Yeah, so he doesn't play, thank God.
Yeah,
thank God he.
As long as our back three is solid, we should be fine. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and I know the crew. I know they lost Luis Diaz. They cut him, which makes sense because he just wasn't playing. He wasn't fit. He doesn't fit our system.
Yeah.
Which it makes sense why he got cut, but he got picked up by Colorado, so hopefully he can do good there.
Yeah, he personally, guys, I don't know if you knew, he is my favorite crew player in recent times. He's been with us for a while. Sam and I were at one of the playoff games a couple years back before the MLS Cup where we won it, and I mean, the guy, Luis Diaz, would get the ball and just run at this guy probably 20 times the entire night, and it was just so exciting to watch. The guy is rapid, and it is sad we don't really get a chance to see him in the crew shirt anymore. And I think if he gets a chance at Colorado with how they've been doing, he could be a huge spark, because we only saw him a few times for the crew this year. I think There was one time I was actually at the match where he played around 10 minutes, and he gets the ball out in the wing and just has a huge touch, run down the line, cross it in, and the crowd is just going nuts. Like he is one of the players that Crew fans really enjoy seeing. He's been with us for a while, mainly through the Caleb Porter years. So, and he's still a young guy. I personally thought he was going to go maybe find his form in Costa Rica, where he's from, but Colorado swooped him up, and good on them.
Yeah. Yeah, so that is pretty much a light episode today just because international break happened. Not a lot's going on. It's between friendlies, it's between Europe qualifiers or Copa America qualifiers. So it's a little shorter today, but we still enjoy you guys listening to us. I know it's on a Monday, not a Sunday, but still very good to listen. We just want to say thanks for listening. Subscribe to our channels on Spotify and YouTube. Um, we'll have another soccer one come out soon. We'll also have football for college and NFL come out soon. And I just want to end the note on. I just want to say we just want to remember the fallen that lost their lives in 9/11 because today is 9/11. We want to say those people are in our prayers, the family members and family that has been affected by 9/11. So we just want to say thank you, and also say thank you to all of our first responders that were there and helped during that time, and to all of our first responders in general. We thank you guys. But yeah, so definitely check us out on Spotify and YouTube to the Net Podcast, and we'll see you guys back here soon. Peace.